Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, saluting Earth Day on April 22nd with an ongoing commitment to help offset carbon emissions with sustainable harvesting of Missouri forests. Details at choosewood.com.
From St. Louis Public Radio. This is St. Louis on the Air.
Missouri is making it easier for people to get certified for substitute teaching. That comes in response to big demand and too small a supply of teachers ready to sub in. The state's actions and the problem it's trying to address are the focus of a report by St. Louis Public Radio's brand new education reporter, and she joins us today to discuss it. Kate Grumke, welcome.
Thank you so much.
So you reported yesterday that Missouri is making it easier for people to get certified to substitute teach. What are they doing?
That's right. So the state used to require substitute teachers to complete 60 college-level credit hours from a recognized institution. And you can still go that route, but they're now allowing substitute teachers to have the option to take a 20-hour online certification course. And so that course covers topics like lesson design, classroom management, and working with at-risk youth.
So that seems a whole lot easier. When did this alternative begin?
So they first tested this alternative last fall, and then they went to school administrators, asked them how it went in the spring, and said that they got pretty good feedback about the substitute teachers that they had hired. And so the state actually made this permanent in August, but that wasn't going to take effect until the end of the year. And the state said, we need substitute teachers right now. So they actually just now made this an option to kind of fill that gap.
So they sort of sped up. Hey, we were going to give this option anyway. Now we're putting this on the fast track.
Yeah, exactly.
So you spoke to Parkway School's Chief Human Resources Officer, Michael Bogus, about the desperate need for substitute teachers. Here's what he told you.
Sometimes our full-time classroom teachers fill in for those absences and cover those classes during their plan time. Our librarians, our counselors, instructional coaches, assistant principals are all filling in as well to cover those classes that are unfilled. And so it just really puts a stress on the entire system.
That is Michael Bogus. He's with the Parkway Schools. He's the Chief Human Resources Officer. Kate, so why is it that there's such a desperate need for subs? It sounds like they're just pulling people from everywhere to try to handle these classes. What's going on?
Yeah, so there's always a substitute teacher shortage. So this has been going on for at least a decade. It wasn't something that was new with the pandemic, but it's something that seems to have gotten worse with the pandemic. And so I know that Kelly Services, it's an organization that provides substitutes to districts nationwide, but also here in St. Louis. They said that about 60% of their substitutes chose not to return when in-person learning resumed. So it is kind of both a pandemic problem and something that's been going on for a long time.
I mean, being a substitute teacher seems like one of the most thankless jobs in the world, but it sounds like with a statistic that high, 60% that work with this company not coming back, is the idea that these are maybe people who don't feel safe in the classroom, or they don't want to deal with COVID protocols in the classroom?
Yeah, I think that could be part of it. I know that there is also a question around if pay is high enough for substitute teachers. So St. Louis Public Schools actually raised its substitute teacher pay from $145 a day to up to $200 a day. But substitute teachers, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, make about $14 an hour as a median. And so it still is kind of a low-paying job. And so that could be part of it.
So you mentioned St. Louis Public Schools increasing pay there. Are there other things you're aware of that other districts are doing to try to just increase the pool of subs?
Yeah, so Kelly Services said they also introduced pay increases in Normandy schools and Confluence academies. And then they've also deployed additional recruiters and resources in the area. And then in St. Louis Public Schools, they're also offering some professional development to substitute teachers to kind of hope that will be an incentive. But it really does sound like what Michael Bogus described, kind of people are filling in these districts. That's a pretty common thing.
It's interesting to hear with this alternative certification where they're making it much easier. I mean, 20 hours online versus 60 hours of college credits. That's a big difference there. You're saying that administrators or the people who work with these subs, they've been happy with their performance.
Yeah, that's what the Missouri Board of Education or the Missouri Department of Education told me, that they've actually gotten pretty good feedback about these substitute teachers, and they think think that could be because this online certification course is really focused on being a substitute teacher, whereas if you've completed 60 college level credit hours, that could be in any topic. And so they think that could be, because it's focused. But I will say that there are some concerns that lessening requirements for teachers could kind of lead to long-term staffing issues because teachers who are less prepared are more likely to leave the industry. And so there are some concerns about doing something like this.
And so for people who are going this alternative route, they can't take a permanent post in the classroom, or could they?
So there are permanent substitutes in schools, but this is for a substitute teacher. So it is kind of that short-term fill-in.
Okay. Well, Kate Grumke, this was your very first story for St. Louis Public Radio, and here you are talking about it on St. Louis on the Air. We're excited to see you covering this news as a parent. This is really important to me and to a lot of people in this area. I'm curious just a little bit about your background. What brought you here to St. Louis Public Radio?
Yeah, so I grew up in the St. Louis area and then went to the University of Missouri, so St. Louis is home. I spent the last 5 years in Washington, D.C., covering politics and policy, most recently with the PBS NewsHour. I was a producer there, and so I was really excited about the opportunity to come home to St. Louis. I love this city, so I'm really excited to be here.
Well, we're happy you're here, and I gotta say, education is such a big beat. I feel like you must have hundreds of choices of what to focus on any given day. Is there anything you're working on next that you want to give us a little sneak peek on, or even see if there's, sources out there that might be hearing this and ready to help you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the next thing that I'm working on is going to be about mental health in schools. So I'm going to be talking about both staff and students and how they're feeling right now. So if people want to reach out to me, my email is kgrumke, Grumke, at STLPR.org.
Well, Kate Grumke, welcome aboard, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
And Kate is the new education reporter at St. Louis Public Radio. This episode was produced by Alex Hoyer, with audio engineering by Aaron Dorr and production assistance from Jane Mather Glass. It was mixed and edited by Aaron. St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here. If you learned something new from today's episode, consider leaving us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the easiest way to help people discover our show. We appreciate it. Thank you. St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri, St. Louis.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, saluting Earth Day on April 22nd with an ongoing commitment to help offset carbon emissions with sustainable harvesting of Missouri forests. Details at choosewood.com.